Hey everybody, Steve Przebrowski here. Welcome to tip number 30 in the series on 101 tips to ace your next promotional examination. All right, let's get started. All right, as a reminder, my website, code3firetraining.com, has a lot of great free information on there to help anyone be the best they can be in their current rank or any rank they may aspire to, plus a lot of great information to share with others. So check it out. All right. Again, this series, I guess, is based on my latest book from Fire Engineering Books and Videos, available off their website, fireengineeringbooks.com, as well as my website. And then it got a 25% off code down there that you can use if you haven't got it already. So a lot of great resources in there. So let's continue now. Now, in the previous tips, if you haven't had a chance to check out all the previous tips, or as a reminder, in tip number 27, we discussed talking to those that were already in the position you aspired to. Obviously, there's a lot of benefits by talking to those folks that are in the positions that you aspire to. And then in tip 28, we discussed talking to those who supervise the position you aspire to. So it's one thing to talk to the folks that are in the position that you want to because they're doing the job, they've got the promotion. But more importantly, tip 28, talk to those folks one rank above because they're the ones that are actually supervising those folks in those ranks that you want to be in. So you can get a lot of great tips. Plus, those folks that supervise the position are probably serving as raters on promotional exams. So a lot of great nuggets and tips you can get from those folks. And then also in tip 29, we discussed talking to those who have taken previous exams. And like I mentioned, talk to as many as you can who took previous exams, but I would try to maybe focus on those that have actually passed the exams and been promoted. I only say that because if they passed the exam, they got promoted, they probably did the right things. I would like to think. And those who didn't do the right things, didn't get promoted, probably are quite bitter about it and may not have a lot of good things to say. And I don't want you to get bitter in the process, and I don't want you to get jaded or anything else. So, not to say that you can't learn some good things, because trust me, there are some great people that have taken exams, not passed them, not been promoted, and just said, hey, this ain't for me. I'll be happy in my current rank, or maybe it's time to throw in the towel, time to retire. They can still give you some good nuggets too, assuming they've got a great attitude and they're willing to help. So let's get on to tip number 30 here. Another thing to do is talk to your senior staff. And when I say senior command staff, your fire chief, assistant chiefs, deputy chiefs, division chiefs, whatever ranks those are, typically at battalion chief rank and above. And depending on the size of your department, you may have a lot of these folks, or you may not have a lot of them. It all depends. I mean, if you work for, say, Los Angeles Fire Department, I can't even think of how many chief officers they have that define their senior command staff. 30, 40, maybe more, I don't know, or FDNY, probably in the hundreds. But again, you can't hit everyone depending on the size of your department. But again, those folks that are on your senior command staff, first of all, I hope they make themselves available to you. I mean, my fire chief, as well as previous fire chiefs, have always been very supportive of anyone taking a promotional exam. Seriously, it's, we, I guess maybe I'm biased in a good way that we've always had good leadership that have always preached open door policy, not to violate the chain of command, but open door policy that you can always reach out to anybody on the senior command staff. And even to this day, to get mentoring, to get advice, to ask questions, ask for suggestions. I know they're busy, we're all busy, but those senior staff can be a lot of great assistance to you. I mean, obviously they're serving as raters more than likely, they've been promoted, and they've got usually a lot of experience. So let's touch on that a little bit. And I want to say it's not about sucking up. A lot of people say, well, I don't want to go kiss ass to the fire chief or the assistant chief or the deputy chiefs. No, think about it this way. It's about networking and building relationships. Number one, they may be raters on your process. And number two, they're going to have to work with you in a higher up capacity, and maybe not necessarily for an engineer position or a company officer position. But when you become a battalion chief, in most departments, you're going to have to be working very closely with the senior staff, sometimes on a daily basis. I mean, in a small department, when I say small, say 5, 6 stations, there may only be one fire chief, one deputy chief, and then it's shift battalion chiefs and captains, shift captains, and shift firefighters and engineers. There may not be a lot of command staff in a small department. And that's not bad or good, it's just the way it is. So if you work in a department that's got, say, 5 stations with one shift battalion chief on duty, a fire chief, a deputy chief, maybe a secondary battalion chief that's assigned to a 40-hour training battalion chief or training captain, if you're a shift battalion chief or even a shift captain, you're going to be working very closely with those command staff members. Why? Because they can't do everything themselves, and they're going to be, reaching out on a daily basis, and you may be responsible for program management, managing projects, whatever else. And even if it's a large department, like, well, San Francisco Fire, I just want to be a battalion chief. I don't want to get involved with the mucky mucks above me. Even in a big city fire department, you're going to have to at some point be collaborating and working with the senior command staff. So it's a great way to start getting to know them, assuming you don't. I mean, I would hope by now, by the time you get to the company officer rank, the battalion chief rank, you already know the names and faces of everybody in your command staff. Again, if you work for a large department, it's going to be tough. But again, you should know those names and faces. And if nothing else, you should have at least met them. You may not know them on a personal basis, but again, you've probably run into them at some capacity over the years, and at least hopefully extended your hand to say, hey, you may not know me, Chief, but I'm, firefighter Steve Prisbrowski. I've been on the job for about 3 years. I work on engine 3 in the A shift. Nice to meet you, Chief. Not sucking up, kissing ass, but building relationships. That's what it's about. I know some of your brothers and the sisters of the firehouse may think it's sucking up, but hey, it is what it is, and again, I don't want you to be sucking up. I want you to be networking and building relationships. And again, keeping those relationships you have, obviously, at the firehouse, without burning those bridges either, because it's a balancing act. There may, and again, some of these on the last bullet point may or may not have been folks that you previously reached out to on tips 27, 28, and 29, especially if it's a larger fire department. So I think that's very valuable. And actually, before I, close with this, I think when you meet with your command staff, or meet with anybody for that matter, you should already have a list of set questions. You should have a list of set questions. And when I met with my senior command staff, when I was a captain going for battalion chief, and even a battalion chief going for deputy chief, some of the questions I would ask them, are, first of all, I bring a copy of my resume and I'd say, hey, take a look at my resume. Any suggestions, any thoughts, anything that I should be doing differently, maybe in the way of education, training experience, department involvement, community involvement. Everyone's got a good opinion. You don't have to agree with everything, but take their feedback. Because again, these senior command staff members have probably been on tons of promotional processes, can offer a lot of great feedback. So besides sharing my resume, I would ask them point blank, hey, you somewhat know me, or maybe you really know me. Give me some honest feedback. Be careful what you ask for, because they may be honest and to a point and to a fault, and that's not a bad thing. But hey, what do you hear about me? What are your thoughts about me? What's the perception about me? Hopefully you have thick skin. But back to the list of questions, I would literally have a list of questions that I would ask them. Hey, say deputy chief of training, which my position right now, I would, as a battalion chief or even as a captain, set up an appointment, arrange an appointment in advance. Realize everyone has busy schedules, so make sure you give them a few different options. Don't have them come to you, reach out to come to them. Yes, you may have to go to headquarters, the ivory tower. I know it's, most firefighters don't want to go to headquarters or the admin building, but you got to do it at some point, and but set that appointment up, maybe bring some coffee, I don't know, but or maybe meet them for coffee, whatever works for them, or lunch. But ask them those questions, hey, what do you like about your current position? Say deputy chief of training. What do you dislike about it? What suggestions, recommendations do you have for someone like me? Where do you see the department going? What do you see the department doing well? What can the department improve upon? You know, I don't know, general questions like that I think are beneficial. Um, I don't know. Those are some questions that come to mind. I mean, you could probably think of a whole ton of other questions to ask them, but obviously you're hoping they give you advice, but it's also good for you to come armed with questions. Maybe you even send the questions in advance, a list of maybe, I don't know, 5 to 10 questions. Don't overwhelm. Don't expect to spend, 2 hours per person, but shit, if you can get 20, 30 minutes of their time, that's great. And you know what? That's a lot of time. But again, before you say, I'm sorry to bother you, chief, and I'd like to set up a meeting with you, realize it's not bothering them. Like I said earlier, our chiefs and command staff have always been upfront of, hey, part of our job as a command staff is to make time for anybody in the department that wants to promote, wants to better themselves, wants to just be the best they can be, wants to know more about the department, wants to get involved, whatever it is. So, I mean, that is my job as a deputy chief, no different than a fire chief, an assistant chief, a battalion chief, is to mentor others and spend time with others. So take the time to, meet with as many command staff members as you can. Again, it's not kissing ass, but trust me, your brothers will jam you up. Oh, you're kissing ass. You went down to admin. You want to be one of them. I get it, but hopefully it is what it is. And again, most people who usually come to admin usually come out or even work at admin on special assignments like, hey, you guys are okay, you're just like us. No shit, Sherlock, we came from the line. Most of us all did work our way up the ranks and come from the line, so it's not like we forgot where we came from, and we're here to support the troops. So hopefully, again, some little nuggets to benefit you there. But as always, thank you very much for the gift of your time. Please feel free to reach out to me, connect with me on social media, and until the next episode, take care and be safe, everybody.